You and your friends have made a huge mistake. You've accidentally locked yourselves in the cellar of the arcane college, where every night the skeletons of former staff members come to life, and the caretaker won't come and check on you until the morning. This situation might seem dire, but there are a couple of bits of good news. Firstly, skeletons aren't all that smart, and so they'll only attack if they're in a direct line with you, whether that's horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. And secondly, the cellar was recently retiled with this nice chessboard look, making it easy to work out where the skeletons might attack. Finally, you can move the skeletons while they're still inactive, putting them anywhere in the cellar before they wake up. So the question is there a way that you can arrange the 5 skeletons and the 3 of you on one square each to make sure you're all safe until morning? Pause the video now if you'd like to give this a try. It's probably a good idea to grab a pen and paper or try it on a chessboard. So one helpful way to think about this problem is to remember that it's symmetrical. If you look for places where you can't draw a straight line from an apprentice to a skeleton, you're still solving the problem but in reverse. And it might be a little bit easier because you're only considering 3 lots of lines instead of 5. The next helpful insight is that the centre squares don't seem to be an ideal spot for either the apprentices or the skeletons. If you put an apprentice in the centre, for instance, their lines of sight cover 16 squares on the floor, rather than 14 if they're in the inner circle, or just 12 if you put them in the corner. So putting an apprentice in the corner seems like a good start, but what happens if we put a second apprentice in another corner? Well, this seems like it might work. It turns out you can leave 6 spaces for the skeletons that way, but then you have to place the final apprentice, and anywhere you put them, they'll take up at least another 2, leaving only 4. And so it turns out that the best place to put the second apprentice is right next to the first one. Unfortunately, we definitely can't put the final apprentice next to the other 2, because that approach covers all but 2 squares on the board. But it turns out that after a little bit of experimentation, we can put the final apprentice in the same column as the one on the corner, as long as they stay in this position. And it turns out that this leaves us with 5 spaces for the skeletons, who fortunately stay all the way on the other side of the cellar. And in fact, this solution, as well as the mirror images and rotations of it, are the only possible solutions for this size of cellar and this number of skeletons and apprentices. But how many apprentices can safely hide if the cellar gets smaller and the number of skeletons stays the same? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this wizarding puzzle, then please subscribe to this channel for more.